Hello and welcome to the big picture. Pakistan is once again rocked with a situation where its longest serving Prime Minister Yousuf Raza Gilani is convicted for contempt of court for not having pursued the matter of prosecution of corruption cases against President Asif Ali Zardari. Though the Supreme Court convicted him and sentenced him only till the raising of the court, which was for a brief period of just a minute, which meant the state sentence for a couple of minutes, Gilani is now a convicted person. Can he continue as the Prime Minister? He has today asserted that no one can remove him from office except the Parliament. And he has dared the opposition to have a vote of no confidence against him. Will Gilani be able to survive? Does the Pakistan Constitution allow a convicted person to continue as Prime Minister? What will be the role of the Supreme Court now? What will be the politics behind all this? Many questions have cropped up. We will discuss all this today while asking the question, can Pakistan Prime Minister Gilani continue as Prime Minister? To discuss this, we have with us an eminent panel of guests, Professor Najib Jung, Vice Chancellor of Jamia Millia Islamia University, New Delhi, Ashok Bahuria, Fellow at the Institute of Defence Studies and Analysis, Pramit Pal Chaudhary, Foreign Editor at the Hindustan Times, and will also be joined on the phone line by Razaul Laskar, the PTI correspondent in Pakistan from Islamabad. Welcome to all my guests. Let me first go to Razaul. Razaul, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Razaul, can you please tell us what is the ground situation today? We have heard that the Prime Minister has refused to step down. He has said that, in fact, he has said that he has been convicted for upholding the Constitution.
Well, I think Prime Minister Yousuf Raza Gilani made a very combative, a very defiant speech in the National Assembly. He dared the opposition to move a vote of no confidence against him, and he made it very, very clear that the only person who could disqualify him is the Speaker. I think it's fairly certain now that the ruling Pakistan People's Party has absolutely no intention of backing away, and it is going to back Mr. Gilani to the hilt to remain in the post of Prime Minister.
So it shows his confidence that he is daring the opposition to go in for a vote of no confidence. That means that he is 100% sure that he has the backing of all and he has the majority in the House.
Well, that is something on which the jury is still out. The Pakistan People's Party doesn't have an absolute majority in the lower house.
Right.
And it has to depend on key allies like the MQM and the ANP.
Right.
So I think it's a bit of a grey area, but clearly Prime Minister Gilani is very, very defiant.
Okay, I mean, you're talking about the other parties which are supporting the government. What have been their comments so far? What have they been saying?
Well, there's been virtually no sort of party that has gone against what the Prime Minister and the PPP have been saying. I mean, the parties in the ruling coalition. Of course, this is somewhat of a grey area.
Okay.
The Supreme Court yesterday convicted him under a contempt ordinance.
Right.
But at the same time, it referred to an article of the Constitution which could lead potentially to his disqualification.
Okay, that's very interesting. Razaul, you please stay on. I'll come back to you. Let me go to Professor Najib Jung. Professor Jung, as Razaul has just informed us, there is an article in the Constitution which can mean it can be tricky for Gilani. Do you think that he will be able to survive? Professor Jung? Okay, let me ask the same question to Ashok Bahuria. Ashok, do you think that he'll be able to continue? These interesting things. Razaul is talking about a particular article in the Constitution.
I think the drama has really begun now. In fact, if you look at the Pakistan's history, especially after democracy was restored, it has been an interesting case of political parties wasting their energy on non-issues.
Right.
And this is more a political issue than a legal issue.
Right.
In the name of judicial independence, the judiciary is getting embroiled in it. But if you look closely into the assault order that is there in the way,
right.
It tells you too many things. The one thing is there which is not apparently clear. Perhaps while pruning the order, there is some meaning has been lost. But they do say that in order to mitigate the impact of Constitutional Article 63(1)(g), they are resorting to the Ordinance Clause 5. So, if you look at the Ordinance Clause 5, in the Section 2, there is clear mention that the judiciary can take into account the defense provided by the Prime Minister,
right.
And can commute the sentence, which perhaps they have already done, which was there for only a minute.
Yeah, just a minute.
So,
yeah.
And so, in that case, I think a lot of things are coming to the fore at the moment without taking the order into account.
I think I've got Professor Jung on the line.
Professor
Jung, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I can hear you, yes.
Yeah, the correspondent of PTI in Islamabad who was talking to us has raised a few issues. He has said that today the latest information is that Prime Minister Gilani has dared the opposition and he has said very clearly that he is not going to step down. And there are certain provisions in the constitution which can put him into trouble. Do you think he will be able to overcome all this problem and continue as the Prime Minister of Pakistan?
Yes, I'm quite sure that he will continue as Prime Minister of Pakistan till the next elections. Justice Iftikhar himself has muddied his own waters. He himself doesn't appear as kosher and as clean as he should have been, because there is a partisan attitude by the judiciary towards Zardari. And therefore, I think that the general sympathy in Pakistan right now lies with Gilani. Should he call for an election which will take another 5-6 months, he will be there.
Okay. So, but Professor Jung, it's very interesting if you're going through the Pakistani press, the PPP leaders and PPP members, even in Karachi and all in the Sindh Assembly, have been saying that this is nothing but victimization of the PPP by the judiciary.
That is what I'm saying.
Right.
That's exactly what I'm saying, that Iftikhar Chaudhry started off all right, but right now he's sullied his own plate.
Okay.
He does not appear as clean and as non-partisan as the judiciary should appear to be. There is clearly an axe to grind against Zardari here.
Okay.
And Gilani is only a fall guy.
Okay. We are now joined by Justice B.A. Khan, former Chief Justice of the Jammu and Kashmir High Court. Justice, let me go to him, Justice Khan. It's very interesting what Professor Jung also is saying, and reports from Pakistan also indicate that what Professor Jung is saying is that Iftikhar Chaudhry, the Supreme Court Chief Justice of Pakistan, has sullied his reputation. He started off well, but now it seems as if it's a personal battle between him and the President Zardari, with Gilani being used as a pawn.
Well, I agree with him to some extent, and I knew it from the day when Chief Justice Chaudhry was taken from street to street by political forces,
Right.
For overthrow of President Musharraf. And it was that time only that he got into this politicalization.
Yes.
And it's very difficult to control. See, a person later, and he ceases to be 100% judicial and 100% impartial.
Right.
When you are playing into the hands of the political forces,
Right.
then later on, while discharging your duty, you are bound to get influenced by such forces at one stage or the other. I'm not talking about this case,
Right.
but I'm only on Professor Jung's view,
Yes.
that there is a common perception that Justice Chaudhry
Right.
has not been above board in dealing with matters, perhaps in his overzealousness to show that I am somewhat establishing some kind of an independent sub-judiciary in Pakistan.
Right.
See, a person can't ensure independence of an institution. He has to build it up, and it has to be built it up in the context of the public faith and confidence.
Okay. Pramit, very interesting. Do you also see this as what Justice Khan is seeing it and Professor Jung is seeing it, or do you see something more which is beyond our eyes?
Well, I would say that look at it politically. The problem with the PPP government under President Zardari has been that it has accomplished very little over the past 4 years. The Pakistan economy is in terrible shape. It's experienced some of the worst natural disasters, including an enormous flood in which the government was terrible in its ability to respond. But Zardari has an interesting state of affairs. He is now, I would argue, and when I talk to people in Pakistan who've been monitoring, they argue that in many ways he's now staging a deliberate political drama to rebuild, if you wish, or reestablish his position and the PPP's position in preparation for the election. So,
how do they justify it? What kind of a drama? It is the Supreme Court which has convicted Gilani.
Correct.
And are you suggesting that this is stage managed?
I'm not saying it's stage managed. I think Zardari deliberately wants to have a situation where Gilani is.
So he thinks it is convenient, whatever has happened is convenient to Zardari?
I think so. I think that it's a win-win situation for him. At present, what will happen is that this could be dragged out over a long battle. Gilani now has 30 days. It goes to the Speaker. The Speaker is a PPP party person, will almost certainly rule in favor of Gilani. 60 days later, it goes to the Chief Election Commissioner, who is also a person close to Zardari from what I've heard, in which case they can also expect a judgment in their favor. At this point, the Supreme Court then has the only option, if it still wants to continue to pursue this, of essentially overriding everything as they did, for example, in the National Accountability Board, and saying the Chief Election Commission is disqualified himself, taken out by a judicial order. At which point there can be almost no public support left for the judiciary on this entire battle. But Gilani will have positioned himself as virtually a political martyr within the system.
Professor Jung, can you hear me?
Yes.
Do you think that Gilani
Yes, I can hear you.
Do you think that Mr. Gilani can come out of all this as a martyr?
Look, number one, the gentleman who spoke before me, he seemed to be thinking that, he didn't think, he said that it could perhaps be a win-win for Zardari either way. Look, Zardari has not managed this. This is fortuitous. Nobody could have seen that this will be a win-win or a lose-lose, because what the shape things take politically is very uncertain.
Right.
Having said that, right now, I believe that Gilani has turned out to be a hero. Zardari is a very powerful political figure which few people in India understand, because he is the clear leader of the PPP in Pakistan. And that is the reason why Gilani puts his job online.
Right.
Gilani cannot move a step away without Zardari's orders. And so, if there is to be any fallout, Gilani is the big hero who falls for his boss. He falls on his own sword to save his boss. So either way, the PPP benefits. They are right now in a pretty weak position with this so-called wave of Imran Khan. Now, I don't know how much it will translate into votes, but the perception is that Imran seems to be making good ground. I personally disagree with that statement, because I think that Imran has to come a long way from one seat in parliament to forming a government. He'll probably get 30 or 40.
Right.
Having said that, the PPP being such a large, important party in Pakistan, give and take a few seats this way or that way, will be a major player. So Gilani emerges as a hero.
Okay, let me get Rizal, before I go into a break. Rizal, quickly, do you agree with Professor Jung that, Gilani can emerge as a hero out of all this? And would all this ultimately benefit the PPP in the coming elections?
Well, you have to keep a couple of factors in mind. The PPP is currently working on a plan to create a new province in the southern part of Punjab, and that's the part from where Gilani hails. And he's already been pushed up as some sort of a martyr to prop up the party in that region.
Right.
In fact, there was a by-election to an assembly seat in Multan, which is Gilani's hometown, yesterday, and the PPP won there by defeating a PMLN candidate.
Okay.
So, already the party is propping that up as, a reflection of the people's anger against the Supreme Court verdict.
Okay.
So, they're going to definitely make the most of this. And I think Pramit's assessment of the situation was bang on the money.
Okay.
And, the PPP is definitely trying to go and use this in Punjab.
Okay. Okay, Rizal, you stay on. We'll go into a short break now. We'll come back very soon. Please keep watching. Welcome back. We are discussing the conviction of the Pakistan Prime Minister Yousuf Raza Gilani and asking the question, can he continue as the Prime Minister of Pakistan? Ashok, coming to you. What Rizal is saying, that he is confirming what Professor Jung is saying, that he may emerge as a hero and things like that. One of the issues which is being discussed in the Pakistani media also is that criticizing the judgment of the Supreme Court, saying that this decision is based on an ordinance which was issued by a military dictator or a dictatorial regime. So, all these things can go in favor of the PPP and Gilani and Zardari.
The PPP has already taken to the streets.
Right.
But one has to be aware, that in spite of the best efforts of the PPP government, the legacy that they have had, that has landed them in difficulties. Like the economy is in doldrums, not because of Zardari, but because of the legacy they inherited from the past.
Right.
But in that sense, there is an anti-incumbency factor that is kicking in.
Right.
So in that sense, I think this particular incident may kind of change that dynamics. There will be certain places, at least in Sindh, where their political prospects will be revived.
Right.
In that sense, the other day, yesterday, I think Asma Jahangir was making this point in the Pakistan TV, that there is a certain element of gain for the PPP. But having said that, let us think of the consequences of this verdict, because the longer version of the order is yet to come.
No, as Pramit was pointing out, that it goes to the speaker, from speaker it goes to the election commission. What will happen there?
And in fact, the case of appeal also is suspect, in the sense, if you look closely into the ordinance on the clause 19, there is a sentence which says that if there are the decision has been given by a bench consisting of more than 3 judges, then it can be appealed to a bench more than 5 judges, and it stops there. But in this case, this is a 7-judge bench.
This is a 7-judge bench.
So that is also unclear. The ordinance is not clear on that. So there are a lot of ifs and buts.
Justice can't be about what Ashok is saying about the confusion as far as the ordinance is concerned. Second and more important thing is, when Zardari became the president of Pakistan, the Swiss authorities themselves, this is about all that, this whole thing is about Zardari and his wife, late Benazir Bhutto, having used Swiss banks to, keep funds there, which is some $12 million or something. But after Zardari became the president in 2008, the Swiss authorities themselves stopped the investigation and said that he now enjoys immunity, we cannot carry on with the investigation. Still, if the Supreme Court of Pakistan is pursuing it, how are they justified in pursuing it at all?
No, that's in fact the core issue, and that's where the Supreme Court of Pakistan is blundering, I must say. See, 2 things which I find very noticeable in my judicial experience.
Yes.
All through, these Supreme Court has taken so much cognizance of this contempt. It's not on somebody's application.
Yes.
And 2 things which you will find running the thread through. One, after every order, Mr. Gilani has been appealing, seeking review, appealing this and that, raising certain issues. And in no disposal order is Pakistan Supreme Court 7 bench giving single reason that why we are rejecting this. For example, immunity order.
Right.
Under 248, Article 248 of Pakistan Constitution, President of Pakistan enjoys immunity from prosecution during his tenure, no doubt about it.
Okay. And still the Supreme Court has been insisting that...
No. Why are not they ruling it?
Yes.
See, every time he is raising this issue, that Pakistan President enjoys immunity, I am helpless, I can't. Why don't they deal with it? Let them reject it. Say Pakistan president doesn't enjoy immunity, then sentence him.
That's an interesting point you have made, Justice Khan. Let me go to Rizal on this. Rizal, aren't these issues which are being discussed in the Pakistani media, among the Pakistani community, political community, as well as judicial community? The point raised by Justice Khan?
Justice Khan has raised some very interesting points because this issue figured in the editorials of both the Dawn and the Express Tribune, which are two of the largest English newspapers in Pakistan.
Right.
And both of them pointed out, whether they questioned the propriety of the decision that was given by the Supreme Court yesterday.
Yes.
And in fact, a lot of people are now asking, why is the Supreme Court simply targeting Zardari? Because this whole case revolves around a graft amnesty that benefited over 8,000 people.
Right.
So, a lot of people are asking, why isn't the Supreme Court asking for action to be taken against all the 8,000 people? Why is it just fingering President Zardari?
Right.
President Zardari doesn't have a huge fan following in Pakistan. But, it brings into, it highlights the way in which the Supreme Court has used its suo motu powers. It's, dabbled into areas which clearly fall into the realm of the parliament and politics.
Okay.
And this is an issue that Prime Minister Gilani referred to in his speech today.
Okay. Please add a point.
There is something called judicial statesmanship.
Right.
See, everything does not go by the abstract letter of law in judicial functioning. Pakistan is a country which is facing so many challenges, security, economic, this, that, and that, and that. And here is a Supreme Court sitting on the neck of the Prime Minister who is braving all those challenges.
And the President.
All those challenges. Mr. Zardari is there till August. Sky would not fall if it could wait 6 months. By the time he would finish his tenure, then send him to gallows.
Right. And let me get Professor Jung on this. Professor Jung, it's very interesting what both Rizal said and Justice Khan. So just a few months back, Zardari, as Rizal was pointing out, Zardari is not one of the most popular persons in Pakistan. But this can help him in regaining some of the popularity.
Look, this is exactly what I have been saying. If I was to be facetious, I would say that Justice Iftikhar Chaudhry is a mole of the PPP. Everything that he is doing is helping the PPP.
Right.
So, he's obviously not a very clever man. And the way he's behaved in the last 2 or 3 years, he rode a wave of popularity. Right. Because people perceive Musharraf to be doing grave injustice to the democratic system.
Absolutely.
And please understand, people are willing to forgive political parties because they expect political parties to compromise. Right. People are not willing to forgive the courts because the courts are expected to be above petty politics. Right. And Iftikhar Chaudhry, I think, needs to be dumped. He is helping Zardari, and the Pakistan election will indeed be very interesting because of this.
Okay. Pramit, Pakistan elections, this can change the way the elections can, finally emerge. Because last 6 months that we have been discussing about Pakistan on various occasions, there have been various times that we have discussed. Every time we were talking of how Imran Khan is. Right. But we may be seeing a different complete scenario in the coming months as far as elections in Pakistan is concerned.
No, I think Zardari is playing his cards brilliantly. He has a situation where, for the first time, for example, the military, traditionally the dominant political force in the country, is almost at its weakest in decades. It does not control the presidency, it does not control the prime ministership, it has an independent judiciary. Right. And among the democratic political parties, none of them are aligned to the military, and they've effectively had to create Imran Khan in an attempt to create their own party. And then on top of that, their number one international ally, the United States, and they are at loggerheads. Right. So he has been able, Zardari has not accomplished all of this, but through a series of events, partly I think Zardari has played a role. He's been able to ensure the military is almost completely quiet.
Absolutely.
In the political system. On top of that, as others have mentioned, his next game is to split the Punjabi vote, because there are now 2 Punjabi parties effectively fighting with each other. And I was mentioning the other win-win factor for him is that even if Gilani falls, what he's likely to do is to run a southern Punjabi, a Saraiki prime minister, prime ministerial candidate will be imposed. And then that allow him to play the Saraiki card and split the Punjabi vote 3 ways. And then given that he will almost certainly have Sindh and Baluch and the Northwest Frontier Province, the election is his, despite a terrible record and governance.
Right. Last words to you, Rizal. Do you see the situation emerging as Pramit is, expecting it to emerge, or is this the way you would see things?
I have to say that, for someone sitting in India, he's bang on the money again. I mean, the name we are hearing the most as a potential replacement for Gilani is Makhdoom Shahab-Din, who belongs to the Saraiki area.
Right.
And, that's what the PPP is planning. I mean, they would love to hive off a new Saraiki province, and that would give them, a large chunk of the votes in Punjab.
Okay.
And, basically, you have to remember that the game is now to take on the PMLN and Imran Khan's party.
Right. Okay. So, Professor Jung, last words to you. So, you already said that it's going to be interesting times in Pakistan. So, this means that Prime Minister Gilani may just survive this time also.
Most certainly, he is going to survive till the elections.
Yes.
I don't know what shape the elections will take.
Right.
But like you said, that none of the parties in Pakistan are covering themselves with glory.
Right.
So it is just like our election. Who knows who will form the government?
Oh,
But
okay.
one thing,
Okay,
that
on
I
that,
would not take
right.
the exaggerated notion
Right. Okay.
of Imran Khan likelihood of Imran forming a government.
Okay. Okay.
I was
quickly.
saying that if he wants to prolong by resort to legal procedures, there are so much scope for it.
Right.
You have 30 days with the speaker, 90 days with the election commission, then that can be challenged again in the court.
By that time, probably the
By
elections
that
will be
time,
there.
new elections will be there. So
Okay. So, Ashok, just wrap it
I
up.
would say it will not dramatically alter the fortunes of a PPP. But anyway, we are headed towards a hung assembly, and that will create a condition where the army may come back as an arbiter.
Oh, that is another. You have opened up a completely new, scenario. And anyway, we have completely run out of time. Thanks to all my guests, Professor Jung, Rizal from Islamabad, Justice B.A. Khan, Ashok Bahuriya, and Pramit Pal Chaudhary. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue on The Big Picture.